Police Commissioner for Vagrancy Act. Law and order in Alotau out of order. And athletes and officials traveling to Olympics need vaccination.
This is National EMTV News with Helen Seah.
Good evening and thanks for joining us for Sunday's news. We start off tonight's bulletin with a COVID-19 statistic update in the country as of Friday, April 30th, 2021. 87 new cases were reported in the country, with Medang reporting the highest at 32. The cumulative total of cases reported stands at over 11,000, with 1,616 active cases. The country recorded a total of 9,475 recoveries, with 115 known deaths, and a total of 93,283 tests have been conducted. Opposition leader Beldan Nama has criticized the government for not providing statistics on contact tracing of the coronavirus in the country. While calling on the government to ease lockdown restrictions, Mr. Nama said contact tracing should be established so that Papua New Guineans know when not to go. He said this is creating confusion amongst the citizens, which has resulted in the surge of positive cases in the last 2 months.
There is no such information available to public so that they can know that, oh, okay, a lot of COVID patients have been detected from this area, so we should all restrict ourselves from going there. No, they just say, oh, there's 10,000 COVID patients. So where are all these COVID tracings? Where did all the funds go to? To continue the lockdowns in this sector, the controller must justify his actions. The controller must tell the people of this country why the hotels, the clubs, the gaming houses need to continue on the lockdown. These are businesses which pay tax to our country, which generate internal revenue for our country. That is why I said controller must specify through contact tracing the mutating patterns of COVID-19. Is it coming from the hotels? Is it coming from the clubs? Is it coming from the poker machine houses? So you can determine which areas that you need to have strict observance on.
Boragaina Primary and Elementary School in Rigo Central Province received more than 30 cartons of books and stationeries. These learning materials were donated by Books for PNG Kids Australia through the Crime Prevention and Restorative Justice branch of the Justice Department.
The Crime Prevention and Restorative Justice branch under the Safe School initiative received a total of 172 cartons of books last year from Books for PNG Kids Australia. So far, they have distributed a total of 63 cartons of books to selected NGOs within NCD and rural elementary and primary schools in Central Province. Of the 63 distributed, 35 were delivered to Boragaina Elementary and Primary School in Rigo Inland Central Province.
I think around about 50 boxes. There are 15 is 32 boxes, 15 for elementary schools, and the other 15 for primary school, and 2 boxes of stationeries. Now, there are the different books, it is categorized, they have been pre-packed in Australia and Alotau. It's been pre-packed based on the level of the NDH also, age range. So for elementary, maybe just for preschoolers, and for primary, maybe not so difficult books, but at least something that they can read.
The aim of the Safe School initiative is to promote culture of lawfulness in schools as well as improving cognitive learning with the objective of instilling culture of lawfulness, promoting the rule of law and better citizenship values to children at an early age to develop and become law-abiding citizens in future.
we are taking a different approach to addressing crime in a more preventative approach in strengthening the capacity of community and institutions in how they can address it within their own level. And in this case, we're entering into schools. We are trying to instill that culture of lawfulness. For school is an avenue that a lot of things can be done through schools, not just academic, but also teaching them the basic values of life, about respect, about preventing crime, about being obedient. It's just a matter of everyone playing their part. We're playing our part by giving books as an entry point to addressing crime at the community level, and especially in a school setting.
The head teacher for Boragana Primary School, upon receiving the books, said the timely donation will help students to improve on their reading capacity to enhance their learning.
These books they came timely, and we appreciate the department for presenting these books. These books will now help the teachers and the students improve their learning, especially in speaking English fluently, and also it will help them in their everyday learning while they use.
The donation of books was made possible by Books for PNG Kids Australia through a collaborative effort between the Crime Prevention and Restorative Justice branch and Salvation Army. Sulisuli, National EMTV News.
Commissioner of Police David Manning is suggesting the implementation of the Vagrancy Act following reports of continuous ethnic conflicts in the nation's capital. He said this will be the long-term solution, but this time as a provision under a proposed Internal Protection and Security Act. Manning said what is happening around the country should serve as a warning to all of us that things are not right, and we all need to start planning now and put in place better laws, systems and structures for a better future. Meanwhile, he called upon leaders of the Golala and Hela people to take ownership of and end the ethnic clash in NCD. He said while police are out on the streets of Port Moresby to prevent further bloodshed and keep the peace, real and lasting peace and normalcy can be restored with the assistance of the leadership of both groups at the family, clan, tribal, ward, district and national levels. And as the COVID-19 controller, Manning said the last thing the health system needs right now amidst the pandemic is more pressure on the health workers from avoidable injuries. The Moresby Northeast electorate is supporting SMEs in the district with financial literacy trainings. Yesterday, the third batch of participants, mainly women, graduated with certificates in basic financial literacy. More batches are to graduate in the coming days.
As per the SME objective of the national government to support growth in SME sector to create new employment activities and achieve sustainable economic growth outside of resource sector for fair and equitable distribution of wealth through majority citizen ownership of business activities, Moresby Northeast MP John Kaupa has executed SME plan to provide basic financial literacy training for meaningful venture into SME activities in his district.
So me talk thank you lo member blomi initiative des la program plenty members style of parliament but first la man karem come out lo.
People go to mama stungu los training. Some problem lo mama mosem. You miss struggle market lo street na. You mi feel mosem like lo must be mahate.
Many people have ventured into SMEs. However, some do not have basic financial literacy skills to manage their earnings. With the basic financial literacy training, the women thanked Mr. Kaupa and said they're set to go.
So now me come to this training, help me good so.
No problem to have budget money, now how do you see money wisely?
According to the local MP, he is committed to making SME workable in his district. Yesterday, third batch of participants in the training graduated with certificate in basic financial literacy. Kaupa says it is important for mothers to know how to budget and spend money wisely.
Also, you mean myself, mama, blow you mean, or this is a legally work blow. Micro SME and SME must go ahead yet with a training so that mothers must know how to use money, saving money, and banking money.
With COVID-19 taking its toll on the country's economy, Mr. Kaupa challenged SME owners to adapt to the new normal as COVID-19 is here to stay.
So, no good members of COVID-19, now got time members taking tough measures and people will die of starvation. So the informal market has to sustain one way or the other along Liblo City. So that's why SME blooming must roll out. We know that COVID-19 and stop. New normal, but me blood behind him.
Alexis Sengi, National EMTV News.
Acting Managing Director of Kumal Telecom, Jesse Wangua, was released from the Baroko cells on Friday after investigative reports suggested that his wife died from a medical complication and not from injuries sustained in domestic violence. NCD Metropolitan Superintendent Gideon Ikumu said the post-mortem results found that she died through complications arising from an antenatal surgery. Ikumu said police now have evidence pinpointing medical or professional negligence as the cause of death and urged family on both sides to pursue further investigations through a separate complaint against the hospital authority. Ikumu said the cause of death, as per the post-mortem, cannot be linked to murder by Mr. Wangua, as alleged by relatives of late Mrs. Wangua. Therefore, police were unable to charge Mr. Wangua. The post-mortem was conducted with the attendance of several members from both Mr. and Mrs. Wangua's families and police detectives. All steps in the observation and findings in the post-mortem were explained by the doctor to the parties while it was being carried out. This was done for the purpose of transparency. National EMTV News continues with a closer look after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Just last month, the hospital staff at the Alotau General Hospital held a protest march in Alotau town after a female staff was sexually abused by a group of men. In April, a Catholic priest was attacked in his own home. And the worst possible scenario happened on Thursday night when families of police officers serving the town ran for their lives because their homes got burnt down by criminals. Alotau, a once peaceful town taken over by criminals pushing an unknown agenda, or is it the leaders that are not listening to them?
The general feeling of anger in Alotau over the unbearable state of crime boiled over this week. A senior member of the Milne Bay community called for the resignation of Milne Bay governor and for a dialogue to resolve the ongoing crime situation. Robert Igara, former chief secretary, one of the most recognizable faces in the public service, didn't mince his words. He said the Milne Bay governor, John Lucretin, has been absent and has shied away from leading from the front in this crisis.
This is something that goes beyond individuals and political parties and members. It affects our children and our grandchildren and the future of our province.
Igara is the most prominent Milne Bay person to speak out this week over the issues. He echoes the feelings of a vast majority of people in Milne Bay province and particularly in Alotau who have had to put up with ongoing instances of armed robbery and targeted violence. In a space of 2 months, the situation has escalated, forcing many to question the political leadership of the lack of it. The Milne Bay Governor, John Lucretin, is noticeably absent in the affairs of the province. Incapacitated by his ill health, he is wheelchair-bound. Many, like Igara, want him to go.
We need to have a governor to lead. And I have the greatest respect for Sir John Lucretin. He's done a lot of, he's run a business a long time, provide jobs. But I regret very much to say this, but in my opinion, given his health incapacity, he's physically not able to perform that role. And in my view, the evidence is very clear. He's failed our people and our province. And he should do the right thing, acknowledge that the time has come for him to step down. And step down as the governor, not as the member of parliament, because elections are next year, but stand down as governor. We have 2 former deputy prime ministers who don't have ministries. We have 1 former minister who's doesn't have a ministry, and we have others who could very well be elected by the provincial assembly to provide the leadership we desperately need now to bring our people together.
Last month, priests from the Alotau diocese were attacked. The Alotau MP, Charles Abel, later met with them to smooth out the situation. Later, health workers protested over the rape of a nurse. Go back to 2018 and 2019, the police barracks was attacked. Criminals bent down the provincial police commander's house to the ground. Shops, hotels, ATMs were destroyed in a series of attacks. This week, in the latest attack, a building used by police were burnt in another attack. Charles Abel called for a state of emergency in Alotau and for increased police presence to deal with the crime. However, many Alotau residents we spoke to say there should be a dialogue between the politicians, the community, and the gang causing the violence to understand their motivations.
What happened was not like the normal criminal activity, that someone went into one store, broke in, took cash. It appeared to be a very well organized and systematic attack. Quite clearly, there was two sides, the police in Alotau and this group exchanging fires. And obviously around Alotau. But this time, the incidents covered most of Alotau town and appeared to target most businesses. And that's concerning. So the question I'm asking is this really a criminal activity? Yes, it appears criminal, but what's behind it?
So far, there has been an unwillingness to talk. Police response has been less than encouraging. 7 houses have been burnt in retaliation attacks on the community accused of harboring the criminals. 1 person has been shot dead.
Response of deploying police from Port Moresby, of course, it's necessary to assure that police can perform their function. My question is what's the operational orders that have been issued by the police commissioner as well as the police hierarchy to units that are deployed. Burning a house and potentially arresting or intimidating innocent people. Is that really going to help us address the issues? We definitely need assurance that Alotau can get back to normal, businesses can open, law and order is there, police presence is seen. And my question is, how can police bring that about? And my view is an engagement meaningfully with community leaders so that we can bring harmony rather than fear.
Seeing the slow response or lack of it from the provincial leaders, the Milne Bay community in Port Moresby, through the Milne Bay Friends Foundation, is setting up a committee to look into the issues surrounding the law and order situation in the province. The committee is chaired by Robert Igara.
And the purpose of it is to stand back and ask questions like, why are these things happening in Milne Bay? And why is it that the sons of Milne Bay are taking up arms and attacking authority? It appears to be a fight with the police, but is it really just a fight with the police? And attack on businesses. And, you know, what's the message? Why would they be doing that? I don't have the answer, we don't. And so through this committee, we want to be able to start thinking through this, stand back and think through this, have a conversation with Milne Bay people, and be able to say, okay, this is our diagnosis, what we think are the real causes. and plan out how we should address this.
True Kai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. Athletes and officials traveling to the Tokyo 2021 Olympics will have a choice to get vaccinated or not. Papua New Guinea Olympic Committee President Sir John Dawaninkura said though it was their choice, it was encouraged that athletes and officials get vaccinated.
The Papua New Guinea Olympic Committee on Friday made clarification that athletes and officials who will be attending the Olympic Games in July in Tokyo, Japan, will have their choice to be vaccinated or not for COVID-19. The president of the Papua New Guinea Olympic Committee, Sir John Dawaninkura, said that it was not mandatory to get vaccinated to attend the Olympics, but PNG OC is encouraging athletes and officials to get vaccinated for COVID-19.
Vaccination is an individual choice, is not mandatory, but we encourage our athletes and officials to be vaccinated. I think Tika has been vaccinated. I'm in the vulnerable age group, so I've had my shot with the second one in about 6 weeks' time. So we encourage our athletes and officials to be vaccinated as a protection. But it's an individual choice and we can't force anybody to be vaccinated.
Friday, 23rd of July is the official opening of the two-week event, with no spectators from overseas expected to attend the Olympics. With the worldwide numbers of COVID-19 cases on a steady rise, there will be measures taken by the host city to mitigate the spread among athletes and officials attending the Games in Tokyo, Japan. General Secretary of the PNG Olympic Committee, Alvita Rapila, says there are no set limits of athletes and officials traveling to the Games. Instead, a guideline on countermeasures to be taken during the course of the Games.
There's no restriction on numbers of teams to travel, but there are countermeasures that are put in place by the host organizing committee together with IOC and the Japanese government in consultation with WHO. They have put together a playbook with countermeasures. We have just today received the second version of that playbook, and which sets out all the countermeasures that every athlete, every official, anyone that is going to participate in the Games, those are measures that we have to comply with. And that's really for the safety of everyone that's involved in the Games. So there's no restriction on the numbers to travel, but there are countermeasures that we all have to comply with to ensure our safety and to mitigate the spread of the virus.
Frilis Sukina, Trukai Sports.
And that ends Trukai Sports, the weather forecast for the next 24 hours after the break.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
This weather update is proudly brought to you by MoniPlus, with you always.
A look at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow in the southern region. Fine weather in Port Moresby, mostly fine in Kerema, cloudy with a few showers in Daru, brief showers in Alotau, and mostly fine weather in Popendita. In the Mamasa region, mostly fine in Ley, partly cloudy in Medang, cloudy with a shower or two in Wewak and Vanimo. In the New Guinea Islands region, mostly fine weather in Lorengau and Kimbe, cloudy with a shower or two in Kavieng, Kokoporabao and Buka. And in the Highlands region, cloudy periods with brief showers in Mount Hagen, Mendi and Wabeg, cloudy with morning fog in Goroka and Kondiawa. There is a renewal strong wind warning for all coastal waters of southern PNG Indonesian border through Torres Strait to Daru and Kira Islands to Kerema, including Yule Island to Hood Point and Samarai Island, and eastern and western Milne Bay Islands. Fresh to strong southeast surges of 25 to 34 knots are expected to persist over the next 24 hours, causing rough seas. All small crafts and boats are advised to take necessary precautions before going out to sea, especially over the warning areas. Forecast for small crafts for the next 24 hours. Waters of southern PNG Indonesian border through Torres Strait to Daru and Kiwai Islands, to Kerma and Yule Island, to Hood Point to Samari Island. Seas of 2 to 2.5 meters, rising to 3 meters. Waters of Samari Islands to Cape Vogel and eastern and western Milne Bay Islands. Seas of 1.5 to 2.5 meters, rising to 3 meters at times. Waters north of Cape Vogel to Huon Gulf and Finschhafen, with waters north of Long Island to Metang and Wewak to Aitape to Vanimo and northern PNG Indonesian border, including waters of New Ireland to East New Britain and Bougainville, with waters of West New Britain, seas of 0.5 to 1.3 meters. Waters of Finschhafen through Vitias and Dampier Straits to CRC and Long Islands, seas of 1 to 2 meters, and waters of Manus and its western group of islands, seas of 0.5 to 1 meter. A look at the ocean forecast for PNG areas. In the Coral Sea, seas moderate to patches rough with southeasterly winds at 20 to 34 knots. In the Solomon Sea, seas slides to moderate with southeast to southwesterly winds at 10 to 20 knots, tending clockwise. In the Bismarck Sea, seas slide with east to southeasterly winds at 10 to 15 knots. And in the Pacific Ocean, seas slide with northwest winds at 10 to 15 knots.
The weather update was proudly brought to you by MoneyPlus, with you always.
And that's been the news, sport and weather for today, Sunday, the 2nd of May 2021. From all of us here at EMTV, have a safe working week. Pleasant viewing. Bye for now.